11 here. Okay, it is Friday, May 3rd, 2024, and I'd like to thank you for visiting the Stonewall Research 2 channel here on YouTube. I really do appreciate it. Alright guys, well, in this video we are going to look at Karahan Tepe. And the reason why I want to look at Karahan Tepe is because it's been in the news somewhat over the past year with the new findings there of these statues and other things that they found there, which all sound very interesting but don't tell us a lot. But apparently Wikipedia has been keeping up with it, because it says in here that in September 2023, Turkish and German experts discovered further sculptures from the so-called Tepeler cultures. A statue of a vulture and a 2.3 meter high anthropomorphic statue were found. The naked figure, which is probably depicted as sitting, holds his phallus with both hands. Okay, so anyway, they found a bunch of these phalluses there, and it's all very interesting. Here they show one of these T-pillars, okay, and you can see some very fine stonework, stone masonry, some finely cut stone around here, and it seems to be how these T-columns should generally sit, sort of freestanding and visible from all sides. And so I have a bunch of problems with the Karahan Tepe site, just like I have problems with the Gobekli Tepe site. Here's Karahan Tepe here, and they show, you know, the T columns here surrounded by these sort of other stone walls that circle around these things. But you can see this one sitting in its base. And these bases are very interesting because they have sort of small reliefs of these, you know, dodo birds around the edges, like carved into them, which you can see these other ones around seem to be lacking their bases, and, you know, have all those fine carvings that they do. They're covered by stone. See, so this is some of the problems that I have with Gobekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe, starting with these other stone walls that are around in a circle, which many of them seem to cover the reliefs on the T-pillars. Okay, so any student of architectural history, the history of architecture, okay, can tell you that decorative columns, decorative pillars are not going to be buttressed by anything that might be in the line of sight, okay, because many of these columns were carved on all sides with some sort of figures or whatever they might be. So why is that happening? So here, for example, at Gobekli Tepe, you can see this one here has like a jackrabbit on it and some other sort of animal. It looks like a horse or a zebra or something like that on it. And half the relief is covered by this sort of, you know, crude stone wall. Seems very geometrically done, though, you know, with some level of organization. But one of the other issues I have with it is that, you know, the level of technology and stonework and stone masonry with the T-pillars and their bases are don't match the level of technology and design of these stone walls. So it's like two different types of levels of stone masonry sort of don't match each other. You know, why you're going to have these finely done columns with these really finely done bases, highly polished and, you know, precisely cut stone, etc., etc. And then you got these rubble walls that surround these things, covering the reliefs on the columns. And I can tell you, just from common sense, you have to look at these things with common sense. Okay, if you have reliefs carved in these columns here, why are you covering them up? So it just doesn't make any sense. It's always been assumed that this is all done at one time. Okay, so this is just one example of it. I mean, you can see many examples of it. Here is Andrew Collins from Megalithomania fame, but a lot of people say you love Megalithomania. Those guys are jerks or whatever. So I don't love them. I disagree with them. They believe a lot of things that I don't believe. Whatever it is, Ice Age, and that these sites were, whatever the German and Turkish archaeologists say, they're going right along with that. It was buried and those kind of stuff. Well, they're not up to what's being said with contemporary archaeology, if that's what they believe. Okay, if they still want to believe that, I guess it's fine. But that's not what these Turkish and German archaeologists and geologists say now. They say something completely different, but just that in a minute. But in any case, you can see this column right here, and this section of it is covered by the stone wall that they left there. That was obviously part of the construction there. They left the stones there that were covering the T pillar here. But why would that happen? It wouldn't happen, okay? Like I said, any student of the history of architecture 101 could tell you that any decorative column is freestanding. It can be seen from any direction, from any viewpoint. It's not going to be buttressed by any kind of walls or anything that cover it up. It's ridiculous. Okay, just from a common sense aspect, from an architecture aspect. But see, archaeologists and anthropologists and they don't like architectural experts' opinions on these things. Just like they didn't like the professor from Texas University that went to go see these Rio Beck ruins. He'd like to do it in his spare time, and eventually he wanted to do a report on it, a scholarly report and an evaluation of this thing. But he found out there was something wrong here, okay, because these Rio Beck style ruins seem more advanced than the Mayans level of building was concerned. A lot of these buildings were patched up again, and I go over it on my other channel, my Stonewall Research channel, my original channel. Okay, this thing here that you're looking at is one of these serpent mouth Rio Beck Mayan structures, and I can tell you right away the thing's been rebuilt. Okay, if you can see this over here, this left side's been rebuilt. There's obvious evidence of it being rebuilt. They don't have the complete release there. They tried to put it back together again. Okay, whereas some of these other buildings don't have this serpent mouth. They're just absolutely beautiful constructions with these repairs that the Mayans did on them. Okay, some of them don't have any repairs. They're just beautiful. But this was all rebuilt again, and there's wood lentils holding up this section of the structure here right now. Wood lentils. They did all the stonework, but yet they have wood lentils there, and you can see it's obviously been inserted there. They weren't capable of carving lentils out that were going to support this thing. They put wood under there because wood is incredibly strong. It's stronger than steel. It's not harder than steel, but it's stronger than steel, as you know, by every car that's been wrapped around a tree. Okay, telephone poles break in half, but not all of them do. Okay, and they're much thinner than a tree. What happens to the tree? Little bark comes off. What happens to the car? Obliterated. All that steel and everything. So in any case, wood is plenty strong, but this thing's been rebuilt. The Mayans came upon these things. They didn't build them, and they repaired them. You see obvious evidence of repairs all over this thing. To try to hold it together while it was deteriorating. Something destroyed it in the past. They probably got their dates all wrong, but they say these Karahan Tepe here, that it's 11,400 years old. Okay, but what was going on 11,000 years ago Okay? So, let's see what was going on. Around 11,000 years ago, the Earth experienced abrupt climate change, which was harsh and could be life or death for our ancestors. The Younger Dryas, a cooling event that lasted from about 12,900 to 11,700 years ago, was the most severe and long-lasting of several interruptions to the Earth's warming climate. The end of the Younger Dryas was particularly abrupt, with temperatures in Greenland rising 10 centigrade, 18 Fahrenheit in a decade. So whatever it was, it's just, do you think it's right in there somewhere? Okay, what was going on there to cause abrupt climate change? All right, so another issue I have with this whole thing, I went over about in my Gobekli Tepe video that I did on my channel here, about how Gobekli Tepe is here 40 miles away. They said the material originally was from 40 miles away, but that's where this lake is that wasn't there a long time ago, because this is a giant Lichtenberg figure from electrical discharge, geoengineering, geo-excavation, electrical discharge excavation, all right, and how it's layered and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, they're all confused about it anyway. All right, so here's another thing about Karahan Tepe. All right, you can see one of these bases up here. All right, you can see the base of one of these things all busted up and broken up here, okay, at Karahan Tepe. All right, so how is that going to happen if it was buried? How violently did they bury this thing when it would bust up one of these bases here? So you have these broken bases for these things, for the T columns here, and they were highly decorated and everything. So back to this article here, all right, which I have set aside here because what they say in it just doesn't make any sense. And they're looking at it from other issues that I have with this thing. So anyway, the rubble walls that are up against the T pillars that cover the reliefs don't make any sense. And what it would suggest is that there's a second occupation of this going on, okay, where you have the broken bases for the T columns, but they're re-erected with these stone walls to hold them in place by another culture that came along later and found these just like Rio back, okay, just like Rio back. Just like the Mayans came upon these ruins here and tried putting them back together and sort of emulated the culture somehow by deriving it from what they saw and whatever folklore and myths they had. Okay, here's some Rio back right here. It doesn't have many of the repairs in it, but you can see these structures were incredible and finely done with finely dressed cut stone, and the Mayan work is this rubble and mortar work that they do, and it doesn't match the work. The two types of levels of technology in stone masonry don't match, just like here at Karahan Tepe. So here's an article about it, and in this article it suggests that, and they talk about it all the time, about these hunter-gatherers who built Gobekli Tepe and now Karahan Tepe. Okay, so the untold truth of Karahan Tepe, this article from, I believe it's 2022. Yeah, by this Cynthia Griffin there at Grunge. Yes. And what they're suggesting is that these people did this not because what they've always believed is that agriculture is what caused organized societies to form. Was that now they had a steady food supply and everything, and it could feed so many people to build all these wonderful things. It couldn't just alone be hunting animals, prey animals and stuff. And, anybody could tell you when you have these huge populations, but the prey animals, disappear real fast. So you better, adopt all kinds of domestic animals and all this kind of other stuff, because if you don't, you can't have these organized societies. So, in any case, so this article seems to suggest that because of religion, all right, that was the reason why these things were built. And because of that, is that the people, were able to dabble in agriculture because they had a plentiful food source with their hunter-gathering exploits. Okay, so because they found some evidence of agriculture there, but it had to be after. It couldn't be before because it was just simply hunter-gatherers and nothing more. So, in any case, that's what this article is suggesting. This is by, the Turkish archaeologists there. That's what they say is going on at Gobekli Tepe or whatever. So, one of the other reasons that they say in this article here is because they found the settlement areas that were outside. Gobekli Tepe is not, there are no residential areas, just these, what they call temple areas. At least, the Schmidt guy, originally, the German archaeologist, said that they were. Okay, so, they said that they were these temples, and there's no living areas there. So they found, I guess they found adjacent to here the sort of living quarters or whatever of these people, and they found no evidence of agriculture at all. Okay, so here's what I gotta say about that. Okay, so they didn't find any evidence in these living habitation spaces or houses that they found there, that they claim they found. Alright, so first of all, many cultures in the past didn't eat in their homes. They ate in a central area where, things were prepared, on a sort of mass scale, because that was the easiest way to do it. Instead of everybody preparing their own individual meals in front of their houses, around their houses, okay, because I can imagine that it was camping rules back then as well as it is now, because back then, more animal population was more robust, etc. So why am I saying camping rules apply? Okay, because here's why you got to do what you got to do when you go camping. Here's some tips for having food in a tree while camping. Okay, you got to hang your food at least 4 feet away. Security, tie the other end of the rope. Okay, why are we doing all this when we're camping here? Okay, if you keep cleanliness, keep your camp free food scraps that might attract bears. We all know about rodents in our houses and insects and etc. etc. Well, why would you want to have that? Who said that these people ate their food in their living quarters? It doesn't make sense. Okay, we're very intelligent, right? Even back then, 12,000 years ago, apparently, because they built all these things, right? So why would we do that? Okay, and it's a lot easier to do it in some central area away from your living space. You don't want to do any living space. Okay, it's just the simple rules. Camping rules apply. Okay, at a time of no vacuum cleaners and whatever it might be. So just think about that. It doesn't mean anything. So it's like, again, if you really want to think about it, okay, you want to know what some stupid guy said about this kind of thing, okay? Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, is a quote by American astronomer and science communicator Carl Sagan. It means that just because there is no evidence of something's presence, it doesn't necessarily mean that the thing doesn't exist. Okay, so anyway, that's Velikovsky's rival there, or whatever. He did have some intelligent things to say. Well, here's one of them. All right. Just because you didn't find any agricultural evidence in these people's, living areas doesn't mean that they had food in them. Maybe that was forbidden for good reasons, okay? Animals are mighty persistent when you got food around, okay? And the more you keep them out of your house, there's no reason to come there if there's no food there. You got no reason to be there, right? So having food in your camping area just gives animals every reason to be there. You don't want that. You don't want the bear to smell the food that you would, the snacks you were eating in your tent last night. Wrong. That's bad. Black bears are big and strong. Okay, so in any case, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Just remember that when it comes to this stuff. Alright, so they say they didn't find any big deal. I can tell you right now, it didn't make sense for them to eat in their dwelling places, just it is, to go to the bathroom there either. Alright, these rules apply in these ancient times, in these primitive times that, we don't understand now with our, antiseptic world that we live in. Okay, this is to prevent the measures, just as the native peoples here among the stone walls use them as fire breaks when they want to get rid of insects and pests in their area. They just burned it out, grid by grid, with the walls being fire breaks. You just burn one whole area there and get rid of all the insects in the area there, because the insects are horrible inside where you live. So, the way these people are living, you don't want that. So that's how they did it. And the native peoples burned entire forests down and whatnot to clear areas for farming and all kinds of other stuff. So, it's not uncommon among people to do these kinds of things. So that doesn't mean a lot to me. That's what they said. And this whole hunter-gatherer thing, these people didn't know about agriculture, is the dumbest thing I ever heard of. Okay, so let's take a little look at watching a seed grow. Isn't that nice, watching a seed grow? Here's plant the seed and watch it grow. See the little kid here? How this little kid's going to learn about how to plant a seed and watch it grow. Okay? From seeds to plants for kids. Okay? Here's another little kid. Active Asian little girl watching things grow. How do seeds become plants? Okay? Look, folks, this is all for little kids here to comprehend, because all you have to be is a little kid to comprehend. You understand? Right? It's the dumbest thing in the world to think that these ancient peoples didn't know anything about farming. It's ridiculous. Any sort of agriculture. There's so much evidence in South America with all these artificial lakes and ponds that are miles long and stuff. They obviously knew about fish farming. And what Charles C. Mann reported from his book 1491 by the archaeologists and anthropologists there, with these ancient growing island areas with these causeways that linked them all together, and ancient fishing weirs and all this kind of other stuff. These people obviously knew where the best food sources were and how to get it and how to monopolize it and take advantage of it. By doing their own artificial ponds and lakes and fish weirs, and like Jimmy and I found in upstate in rural backwoods Vermont, these stone-built sluice from this, probably an artificial pond with this like pyramid platform they have built of stone. It was amazing. I had all pictures of that, but they got lost somehow. But in any case, folks, all right, you see all this stuff, watching the seed grow with the little kids learning about it and stuff. Okay, anybody can figure this out. It's the easiest thing in the world to figure out, this whole thing. And, again, with the research in the United States, okay, out of 76 Paleolithic sites where they expected to find large mammal predation, they could only find it in 14. Okay, what were these people doing in the rest of them? They weren't doing that. Okay, something else, right? People are more sophisticated in the past than we can imagine. So just imagine that. All right, so this is just another nonsense article about Karahan Tepe, okay? The untold truth of Karahan Tepe. But look at this one, okay? The mystery of Gobekli Tepe, which is like almost the identical article where it says the same thing from 2013. It's almost just like a plagiarized article to this next one here, where, they must insist upon this, hunter-gatherer junk and all this kind of stuff, and they don't know what covered up. First of all, I went over this in another video on this channel here when I was talking about the electrical geology phenomena that I covered Gobekli Tepe. All right, because they're confused about it, and the clear evidence of it is in the Wikipedia article. Okay, so they're keeping abreast of Karahan Tepe with all the modern research and all kind of stuff. So, okay, listen to this. Okay, I'm going to repeat it again from my other one, like you got to hear it again, but. Here it is again. You know what? I think I just mentioned it. I didn't read it to you, but here it is. No definitive purpose has been determined for the megalithic enclosures. Okay, so no definitive purpose. Okay, not temples like they just said in that previous article there from 2022, right? Okay, like the German archaeologist said. But see, here's what they say about it. Schmidt had described them as the, quote, world's first temples, unquote, that were intentionally and ritually backfilled. Okay, so that's what the first guy said, and that's what everybody believes, and every article talks about. Even this article here at the end of it says something ridiculous here, which I should mention here. Okay. All right, they go, first of all, 11,400 years ago. Okay, so the argument is that agriculture was the result of settlement. Okay, these hunter-gatherers settled, then agriculture comes. The way, it's the other way around as what's currently believed. Okay, agriculture provided all the food for these people to settle down. So in any case, they're saying just the reverse, which it seems ridiculous to me because agriculture is so simple to understand. So kind of complex religious devotion. This is all their argument about it, which I think is ridiculous. Okay, so it says at the end of this thing, beyond the phallic and serpentine structures that stood symbolically in the background of these ancient humans' lives, there existed a deep respect for the temple itself, which appears to have been intentionally buried with the kind of care usually reserved for human remains. Okay, that's why you have these broken up bases in there, right? Because it was just so much care was taken when it was buried. That's why you see this busted up base of one of these things. Doesn't make any sense. It was buried with so much care. All right, here it is right here, with the busted up base there, buried with so much care that the base is busted up, and it seems that all of these things had to be propped up by the stone walls, with the exception of the ones who still had bases that were intact. Okay, with them, the reliefs buried underneath the stones there. Ridiculous. It's just second occupancy. This is clear evidence of it. So if that's the case, then the T pillars go even further back in time. Okay, And then whoever this next culture was, re-erected these things and built the stone walls around them to prop them up because the bases were all broken and everything. That's why they're offset and all this kind of stuff. So, the original structure must have been much better. Obviously you can see with the level of stone masonry, okay, with these cut stones and carved stones and everything, and these beautiful bases, okay, all carved out and polished, right? It doesn't make any sense. Just like it doesn't make any sense there at Karahan Tepe. So it wasn't buried with all this care reserved for human remains anyway, because they say right here in the Wikipedia article here, okay, so that's what Schmidt said, that they were intentionally and ritually backfilled. That's what everybody believes right now, okay, so they didn't read this Wikipedia thing evidently. However, recent stratigraphic studies revealed that they had been filled by slope slide events and were sometimes repaired and modified thereafter. Okay, so talk about confusion of the site. All right, this stratigraphic studies revealed something else, not what that Schmidt guy said, that it was intentionally buried and ritually buried. Okay, it's backslides, slope slide events. Okay, and even that's not what it's about. This is what my video about on Gobekli Tepe was, because of what happened. Okay, 11,000 years ago, which is right here, which is roughly around the same time period, give or take. Do you think it's exactly 11,000 years, or even if it was? Okay, something covered that stuff up. It wasn't covered by slope slides, like they say. They're trying to figure it out. It's because his original conclusions about it didn't make sense through these stratigraphic studies. So they're very confused about it, all right, because that's not what happened. This is what happened to both sites. It was buried when this thing happened around this time. Right? It's real simple. Okay, you gotta use common sense with this stuff. Alright, so they're very confused about the whole thing. Right? These are not the things that happened, and their evidence is no good. It's pure speculation in so many aspects of it, and everybody's confused about it. They're writing articles that say it was buried, and in Wikipedia there it's slope slides. Okay, make up your mind. What do you want it to be? Maybe that girl journalist from Grunge should read this Wikipedia article. Okay? So nobody knows what's going on because they don't know what's going on. Okay? And if this goes that far back, like I said, this thing was covered after these stone walls, and these T-pillars were re-erected, and then the stone walls were built around them to prop them up, which looks clear to me, with not the same level of technology and stone masonry as the T-pillars, obviously, and all the broken bases around and whatnot. So, come on now. This, it's just like they're avoiding the obvious. Why? To just stick with some story that this German guy made up, first of all. Now it's all different now. And I think they also mentioned that Wikipedia article is evidence of agriculture and all kind of stuff. Of course there is. Because babies can figure it out. What else they got in here? How does the seed grow? Come on. Learning garden for kids. Where's the Angry Birds? Yeah, here's a bunch of Angry Birds watching the seed grow. Come on, dummies. That whole hunter-gatherer thing is BS. They keep on finding these temporary camps used while these people were migrating, just like the Native Americans did. All these people did in the past. In the winter, they were someplace where, they can winter, and in the summers, they were someplace where they could get a lot of food. and a lot of resources, and take advantage of it. It's just they were moving around, so they find these, huge honey camps, because while you're moving, you can't be growing stuff. Maybe you can carry some of it with you if it's not depleted. It depends on how many people you got. It seems to me like if anything like the Iroquois were doing with 500-acre farms, boy, they were supplying a lot of people with food. Maybe they had a lot of excess, but, all the cultures around the world had excess every year after year, or just enough. Who knows? But why take any chances? So you're moving from one section of an area to another, depending on the season or whatever. You're stopping in these places, and they dig up these camps and say, "See, hunter-gatherers. It had to be," even though they just found 14 out of the 76 sites in North America here. Whatever. It's just they're full of crap. With all this stuff is nonsense. You see clear as day the T pillars are covered up by these stone walls. There's this second occupation going on here that everybody's failing to mention or recognize. How do they rationalize this? It can't be. All right? Just like that poor guy who got, beat up. You can't go, when you go to the website to look at this guy, the professor of architecture from Texas who did these detailed reports on these things, okay? You go to find out further about his research. There's no access anymore. Either you got to get permission from the university to be a student there or whatever. You just can't get access, but I tried. Once I found out about his work, this guy went down there and said, something's funny here. Doesn't make sense. And I said, when somebody supports their theories and hypothesis and everything, hey, he's a great guy, he's terrific, what a smart guy. When it doesn't support what their hypothesis, architecture, professor, but who knows? He doesn't know shit about it. He's not an archaeologist, anthropologist, so just ignore whatever he says. That's how it was. So, and that's how it is. Right? So it's just a simple fact, okay? Just like a lot of things, just like the Egyptian ruins and all the ruins around the world was stumbled upon about, after the peoples there disappeared, who are they? Okay, I think we know who they were. I don't want to mention it here. Okay, but I think we know who they are. We eliminated them, kind of stories in the Bible about them and everything are probably true, to some degree or whatever. The Hebrews came out of the hills there, the Phoenician Hebrews or whatever, and killed all the other guys, the other Phoenicians there, and the Canaanites or whatever, just Phoenicians. But then they call themselves Canaanites. I guess they retired from all that exploits there, but in any case, they killed them all, whatever. So a lot of killing going on in the past, talked about. So in any case, I don't know, but I don't think they know what they're talking about over here. That maybe nobody told them that, nobody buried this site intentionally or ritually. It's all, slope slides now that are doing it. And as the slopes were sliding, they were just building the walls like real quick, to just clean up the area, whatever it is. I don't know what kind of stupid shit they're talking about, but they got to make something up because they can't figure it out. And I'm telling you, I know what it is, but hey, don't listen to me. But hey, Dave from Electric Universe Eyes was like, yeah, he was with it, so were a whole bunch of other people on the channel. Okay, because they understand it. Okay, something happened in the past 11,000 years ago, and it destroyed a lot of this planet. It's just as simple as that. Okay, there's so much evidence of it, and all these animals went extinct and everything. That doesn't happen, with just some simple phase or whatever it is. Well, that's when these ruins are from, right? Okay, so what did get covered up by, people buried it and everything, and now they didn't bury it, all right, according to their own research and everything. So they're very confused about the whole thing because they don't know, all right? In fact, they don't know anything, okay? They don't say about this second occupation, which is clear from the way the story, any architecture student can tell you, okay? Decorative columns, decorative pillars, it be seen, nothing buttressed up against them. It's not, you know, it's not how it's done. Here's oh, I think I had that anymore. Oh yeah. Here's one they covered up with this box here, I guess, because it's broken like this one or whatever. I mean, how'd that get broken anyway? By gently burying it, like human remains? I don't know how to get so broken up there. And then you have this one covered with a box and all kind of stuff. Is it holding it together, or I just don't want to see all the walls built up against the reliefs on it, covering it? Like this one in the background over here. Okay? The whole thing's covered with reliefs, but yet the stone walls are covering them up. No, doesn't make any sense at all. Don't even think it for a second. All right, just clear evidence of second occupation of these sites at some point later on. How far back did the T-pillars go? And they were all freestanding, all visible from all sides, obviously. It's ridiculous to think otherwise. They show a lot of them like backed up against stone walls. Well, what's on the other side? It's only decorative on one side. There's only reliefs on one side. What's on the other side? You never get to see those pictures. They won't show you that or dig it up to see if, like, is there anything on the other side here? No. Never see one. It's always the face of these things, never show you the backside of it. They don't want to. Because it doesn't make any sense. They still don't know how to explain any of it. They just repeatedly see all these things covered. Doesn't make any sense. The T columns. Half of them are covered up. When you see overhead reliefs of these things, you can see them all buried inside these stone walls, but you can't see the reliefs. So many of these pictures are shown with them covering the reliefs. Doesn't make any sense. So, I don't know. There's just a lot of the pictures they show, the well-known ones, are covered. And these bases all over the place, broken up and whatnot. So, again, this is a common one here. Where more of the stone wall is covering up. That's the one from Andrew Collins there. Doesn't make any sense, sorry. Doesn't cut the mustard. So forget about what they say about this. They don't know what they're talking about. There's clear evidence of second occupation here with these crude stone walls built around these finely cut and polished and carved pieces here. The two types of stone masonry don't match each other. They're covering up the columns. Their reasoning behind everything doesn't make any sense. And, other arguments could be made for where they were doing their eating and all kind of stuff like that. It's very common for all these cultures in the past, and you just cook for everybody in one place. And if you're smart about it, keep the food out of your house when you're living outside in these crude structures or whatever it is, okay? Just inviting pests to come around and bother you. Why would you do that? You wouldn't, okay? Just common sense. Not to make up all these stories about these people, these romanticized stories about everything. Reading too much, fiction stories. So, in any case, guys, that's the story behind Karahan Tepe. Alright, so they found all these great statues. Who built them? Was it the original T-pillar people? Or was it the secondary people with the cruder stone walls, whatever? There's nothing said about that because they don't believe that. It's all built at once, and that's it. That's as far as they're concerned, and that's all there's to say about it. Alright, so, anyway, guys, think about it. So, totally confused. They don't know what they're talking about. The material that covered these sites happened, so just catastrophic thing that happened, cataclysm that happened 11,000 years ago that created this lake here. You can see it's clear Lichtenberg figure, all these things. That doesn't occur naturally. There's no water runoff from the mountain to create these things. To require huge waters, just like the Grand Canyon. They say it was some giant inland sea that drained out of that, caused all that stuff. Did it? Or was the land overwashed by all these cataclysms going on, huge tsunami, 1,000-foot tsunamis going on and whatnot, 5,000-foot tsunamis going inland, all this kind of stuff. So whatever, I'm just saying their reasons don't make any sense, but there's alternative reasons, like what the Thunderbolts project talks about, but Velikovsky talked about, that have to do with these things that happen and the reasons why. These things, that's why you find woolly mammoths, flash frozen in Siberia, but they have like jungle growth in their mouth. Whether the climate was more temperate over there or whatever. So, flash freezing doesn't happen in ice age. Ice ages take long periods of time. So it's abrupt changes, like they say. Okay, so that maybe that has to do with all these climate things that they identified from the ancient past was caused by this stuff, but it wasn't an ice age like they're thinking about it with this ice, carving out granite. Ice can't carve granite out anyway. Okay, there's the hardness of one, and granite has the hardness of steel. When does ice cut steel? It doesn't. So forget about that story too. Anyway, guys, I thought you might be interested in hearing about Karahan Tepe because it doesn't make any sense, just like Gobekli Tepe doesn't, for all the reasons I said and all the reasons they admit to. It wasn't buried by people ritually and all that kind of stuff. It was buried by slope slides, they think. That happened sometimes, maybe, and then modified the walls. Come on now. It's clear that these walls were built to hold these things up. They was rebuilt the best they could, and the ones that were in pedestals already, they kept freestanding because the pedestals weren't broken like the one I showed you. There was other ones where you could see other broken pedestals too, so they're just broken pedestals all over the place. Anyway, guys, think about it, and I don't know, don't believe what they say. They're wrong about everything, just like 90% of the time. It's all fantasy stories made up by them anyway. Okay, they can't see the obvious. Alright, so anyway, guys, Bloodcat 7 signing out. Peace.